Hi, welcome guys to the Vroom podcast. I'm your host Fernando Mercado, and this is our next episode of Hit the Apex, where we recount the races, let you know what happened last weekend, and yeah, just talk about what I thought and share with y'all. We had a pretty freaking awesome previous weekend at this is a couple days later. It's actually the next weekend that I'm recording this. Those of y'all that didn't listen to the Into the Weekend episode. Currently, right now, I'm in Connecticut. I'm an actor, and I got this gig to work at the O'Neill Center in Connecticut and work on a new play. So I'm currently in a cottage room apartment of sorts. And that's why we got a different video setup, got a different mic setup, everything kind of sounding a little different. But thanks y'all for joining me on this ride. We'll be back to our normal, everyday type stuff for our episodes next week, and I'll be uploading our Hit to Apex on a Wednesday or a Thursday, uploading our Into the Weekend on a Saturday right before Sunday race, so we can talk about what's gonna happen. With all that, bro, Palou, Masterclass Road America, Briscoe pulling off a fuel gamble for the ages at Pocono, and a thriller in Jakarta, which gave us a first time Formula E winner. Very exciting. Let's break everything down, dive into the weekend. Let's get it. First up, we got IndyCar Expel Grand Prix at Road America. The Palou show continues. Yeah, Palou came out. He said, I didn't do well last two races. Bet. He came back winning. Had the fuel gamble and won it all. He had a really good strategy, used the cautions well, great fuel saving for those last final 8 laps, and he really pulled together a strategic race. He had pace pretty much also the whole race. It's not like he wasn't fast, but it was a pretty chaotic race, and the usual front runners weren't all there for the race. Just gonna quickly look at those driver standings. Our usuals like Kyle Kirkwood in fourth. We had we didn't even have Pato or Lundgaard in the top 10, and all the Penskes went down. So yeah, we'll get to that too. So yeah, Palou just showed why he's gonna win the championship this year. I think he's gonna win the championship. I don't think anyone is gonna come for him in that department, especially after this win. Um, and he had that incredible moment against Will Power with Will Power and oh, now I'm forgetting the third driver that was there. Now I can't remember who the third driver was. Uh, that's hilarious. But yeah, they're driving and oh, it was Kyle Kirkwood. Yeah, Kirkwood. Kirkwood's in front of both Power and Palou, and Kirkwood and Palou and Power are battling it out side by side. Power puts literally the power in the car, overtakes a little too wide Kyle Kirkwood, almost slamming into him, pushing him even wider. And then Palou, being the patient guy he is, sees the opening, takes that moment and just cruises through, hits that racing line perfectly, and gets right in front of both of them. And after that, you couldn't get him out of first. And yeah, it was a Palou race for sure, and he won it. And it was you can't take it away from the guy. I mean, you're like, oh, there goes Palou winning again, but then you're like, but he deserves it. He's literally the best guy on the field. So yeah, great show from Palou. Happy to see him win again. And yeah, just excited to see what the next race looks like for him. Since he's been flip flopping a little bit. In other even more exciting news, Felix Rosenqvist was a freaking rocket ship this race. He put down essentially a qualifying level lap during the race when Palou was in the pits trying to get the undercut, but it wasn't necessarily enough. He was still a little too far behind, but he closed the gap pretty far. And he was certainly the fastest person, right, on the field, securing his P2. Any day I see Felix win, it's a good day. He's such a nice, funny, charismatic driver, with a outlook to win. So it's great when the car certainly matches his abilities, or when he is kind of out of his head and is able to focus on the race and put down those bombastic laps like he did. It was really fun to watch him, uh, put contention for first. I think the most disappointing part of the race was to watch Penske just blow it again. I mean, Jesus Christ. Josef Newgarden can't. I think he's having probably. I mean, I know he's having the worst season of his entire career, with all the DNFs, not being able to even finish a race. He had a terrible crash before Road America too. Yeah, he's been having really the hardest time out of any of the drivers on the field, and I kind of do feel for him. You can say what you want about Newgarden, but he really is one of the most talented drivers. I mean, if Indy wasn't your proof of that, I don't know what would be, other than his incredible track record. Um, but to see him just so defeated all the time, it's a little sad. I don't know what is going on in Penske. I think that some of it is their fault, his fault. Some of it is just circumstantial, like the last two races. I mean, this last time was his fault, but the race before that wasn't. But also, it's not just him. Scott McLaughlin too, and Will Power just not able to finish races, find pace. It's it's becoming a problem now. And I wonder, we're also obviously continuing the conversations of Maluka's possibly entering Penske, taking Power spot. I think all these drivers, except for Newgarden, I feel like Newgarden's going to get slack because he's literally the best driver. And if he's having an off season, that's fine. Like, I feel like they can get past that because they know he's going to be able to bring it later. However, it's Power and McLaughlin that I'm worried for. I think that Power especially needs to do something. He needs to do something pretty major soon if he's looking to stay at Penske. I think that they will seriously consider switching him out if he doesn't perform as well, because I think he's kind of, him and McLaughlin kind of trade being the lowest performing Penske, because again, Newgarden's kind of in his own thing right now. So I'm interested to see what they have a break this weekend, which I think is necessary for them to reconsider what to do after the restructuring of their staff, of Joseph's and the general team's inability to perform on track, because they're performing in qualifying. It's during the race that they're having issues. So yeah, I'm wondering what they have to do in order to actually be able to outperform the field like they normally do. Because right now, I mean, it's Chip Ganassi is in front. That's really it. All the other teams are switching around. Andretti Global is finding success with Kyle Kirkwood in specific, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's also these hybrids. I feel like these drivers have constantly talked about how much they hate these hybrids, and it seems like we're gonna have them for another couple years because the next car is behind schedule. So yeah, I don't know. That Penske situation is very alarming, and I'm sure the alarm bells are sounding in their garage. So let's see how that goes. And then just want to highlight a little surprise performance from Nolan Siegel in P8. He had a really, really rough run to 219, two showings. The last two showings, he's been in 19th. And so having a top 10, especially now, is what McLaren needed, especially because Christian and Pato did not do well this race. And yeah, I mean, Santino Ferrucci again, another podium. Very happy for him. He's been performing really well. Um, and I don't know. He seems to have a different energy to them this season than I think the reputation that follows him kind of dictates he's supposed to have, which makes me really happy to see. I think that might be the difference in his race quality and his race craft. So yeah, that was pretty much my general thoughts about how the race went. I think when we're talking about strategy, right? I mean, it all came down to fuel this race. It all came down to fuel. Those caution periods between laps 10 and 30 completely changed the game. Teams that could not react dynamically to save fuel under yellows had a massive advantage. Oh, no, sorry. Teams that could react dynamically to save fuel under yellows had a massive advantage. Like Palou, they nailed it. They turned every caution lap into gold. And yeah, I think that a lot of times, especially with races like Road America, where everything kind of like crumbles to crap, you have to perform well on the strategy, on fuel economy, and that's something we're going to see. We saw a lot last weekend was the fuel economy ratio. Also insane how almost every race, all the top runners just could not keep a hold of themselves. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm getting ahead of myself. But in terms of championship, yeah, I mean, Palou is crushing everybody, all their hopes and dreams. Kirkwood is maybe the only person that eventually could do something about that. But as of right now, it's looking like the Palou show all year long, and I'm not necessarily mad about that because he's that good. He's really good. um, and yeah, that's my little takes on IndyCar for this episode. Let's move on to NASCAR for the Great American Getaway 400 at Pocono. I love the names they give the races. I think they're so funny. Um, yeah, Chase Briscoe's fuel saving masterclass as well. Um, yeah, he had a huge fuel gamble. Uh, his decision to stretch out fuel after that final caution was very gutsy. 34 laps of fuel saving while defending against Denny Hamlin. That's hard. Denny is one of the most aggressive drivers I think on the field. He finds great pace in that 11 car. And Chase Briscoe is one of those drivers that hasn't necessarily found the front, but he's been giving everyone a run for their money. And he just found his way up front. Obviously, he kind of had that pit stop issue where they just really couldn't find enough fuel for him. And so I think that him going over and you know putting it forward, putting finding that sweet spot between the throttle and saving his fuel, that ultimately won the race. And the fact that Denny, I think also Denny just couldn't find pace in that car. He just couldn't move. I think he was also, I don't know if he was necessarily fuel saving, but that car just couldn't outpace Briscoe's for whatever reason. And so I think that essentially was what made the difference. I think that obviously Chase did really well with was saving his gas, and just quickly going back to IndyCar, all of them, all the cars stopped literally right off the field. They did not go in the pits. They had no cool down lap. They stopped because they had no fuel. Everyone had no fuel on that race, especially Palou. He somehow had enough to do a little lap around, a little cool down lap, but yeah, everyone else could not figure that out. And yeah, it was a very good day for Chase. Glad to see him win. He's now in the playoffs, rightfully deserved. He is one of the better drivers on the field too, and it was a matter of time before he would kind of get his win. So great to see him have that. Blaney, Blaney back to front magic, starting 20th, finishing on the podium. I mean, if that isn't classic Blaney racing, I don't know what is. He's the comeback king, bro. He just somehow figures out how to race like his life depends on it. I feel like he's like a little Josef Newgarden over there in NASCAR. Just yeah. If you thought Blaney lost pace from last season, think again. He's here. He's here, and he is the defending champion for a reason. So yeah, don't count Blaney out. Yeah, that 20th to podium is crazy. Is crazy. Um, Denny, Denny's Pocono dominance almost. Yeah, he did everything right. Led 32 laps, dominated stage one, had a perfect pit strategy, but the fuel managing that Briscoe had just made the difference. Made the difference, and he just couldn't find pace on those last laps to get over our good friend Chase Briscoe. And yeah, now we got some playoff picture chaos. Now Briscoe's now locked in. Bubba's getting tight. Chase Elliott's safe on points. Chris Buescher and Alex Bowman too. They're all sweating bullets. And Ryan Preece, Eric Jones are right there, breathing down their necks. So it's going to be really interesting going into this next race here at Atlanta, seeing if Preece or Eric Jones maybe place a little higher, get a little extra points than maybe Wallace or Bowman to clinch the playoffs in points and get above that cut line. I think the saddest part of the race, definitely the biggest underperformer thing we need to highlight, was the Bubba Wallace disaster. His brakes just hitting the floor and not being able to, and DNFing essentially because he slammed the walls. I think that Bubba Wallace is one of my favorite drivers for his personality, his story, and his overall racecraft. And I think he has the potential of being one of the best drivers, especially as a BIPOC driver. Um, I support him and want to see him win. And I think that him on that team recently, they've had some issues, and I think he hasn't really been able to find a groove like he normally can in previous seasons, and it's making his ability to enter the playoffs like he deservedly should be in kind of difficult. So it's going to be really crucial for this next race for him to somehow come out on top, come out with some points. He did not place well at Atlanta, so he's going to really have to pull it off on strategy and pushing the car to its limits. And if he wants to be anywhere near a race win uh, and secure his ability to go into the playoffs, so yeah, that's what I have on NASCAR. We're gonna break into Formula E now at the Jakarta E Prix. I haven't talked about Formula E in a minute. Formula E is kind of hard to talk about, in my opinion, because it's on the Roku channel, and sure, that's free, but I don't necessarily love their coverage of Formula E. I think the editing is good in the way they put the information and stuff. I think that's excellent. I just think that how we actually set up talking about Formula E is kind of boring, and uh, and so and it's also one of those things that talking about it, it's hard to share for people to go watch it. But on that kind of note, I will say that Formula E is one of my favorite leagues to watch because of how electric it can be in terms of strategy with the attack modes and the power, yeah, the attack modes and pit energies and the kind of overall construction of the car and how the laps, the races are a little shorter, so there's more stuff happening, and the insane amount of overtakes that they do per race. It's a very eccentric race league to watch, which is why I find it so entertaining. Along with leagues like supercars, they're really unpredictable. So yeah, and this race was not any different. So let's get into it. Chaos, carnage, and a first time winner. We got Dan Ticktum's breakthrough. This has been building all season. All season. Ticktum's been quietly finishing top fives. He's gotten a podium or two here and there. and now he finally got his first Formula E win. If you watch the Formula E driver Amazon Prime TV show, you kind of get a good sense of his personality, and he's a very interesting, funny character that I think every league kind of needs. Right? He reminds me a little bit of Carson Horsevar for NASCAR, Spire Motorsports, and Ticktum has been on this team for a minute. Cupra KiroThe, they've been struggling pretty heavily throughout the seasons, but with new funding and I believe they had a rebranding too for the team. They really came out the gate swinging. Beckman, their other driver, isn't as of right now anything special, anything to write home about. But Ticktum is their star, and he showed exactly why. He handled those safety car restarts great, managed his energy while Mortara was breathing down his neck. I think he's shown that he's matured as a driver. I think he's shown that he can outpace the other cars and that he can be aggressive without inflicting penalties on himself. And I think that that's one of the most important things, is to be aggressive while still following the rules in order to not mess up your race. And I think that this is showing that he can be a strong contender. I don't know how many more races it'll take for him to win another one, but I think that he's one of my favorite racers, and it was really great to see him win. And yeah, I wish him more. I wish Cooper Cairo more success in the future. So it was really great to watch him finally break through out of just getting a podium and finally winning his first race in Formula E. We had a front runner meltdown too. I mean, we had Jake Dennis on pole, who stayed pretty consistently in the top running for most of the race, for a good period of the race, with Nick DeVries right behind him, and then they had their own private war for the lead, just battling it out, and it cost them both. Dennis got in, yeah, he made contact with DeVries, and then after that, it was just kind of over for both of them. He dropped down to P17. That's the kind of aggression that costs you, and that's the kind of aggression that I'm talking about that Ticktum it has been able to avoid so far. Is that, I mean, DeVries is one of those drivers that impulsive, aggressive in the wrong way, and uncalculated. I think he just makes decisions sometimes that he gambles all the time, and sometimes the gamble works out and he wins, and then sometimes most of the time he sucks. And this is no different. I mean, he found good pace. He qualified well. He was right behind Jake Dennis and had to bring both of them down kind of with him. And because of that mess up, that made space for Mortara to be able to climb up, get P2. However, he did have a kind of not great moment with his attack mode timing. He believes if he activated it earlier before that full course yellow at the end, he could have taken the win. And I kind of believe he could have as well. I mean, he's another great consistent driver when he's able to communicate well with that car. But the problem with Mortara, I think is maybe that during the race he just couldn't. They just weren't able to time that attack mode right. But I mean, a P2 is a great standing. I know he wishes he had gotten that P1, and ultimately those are the decisions that cost you in the race. For those of you that might not, I'd say attack mode, and you're like, what the hell is attack mode? I don't really understand what that is. Attack mode is essentially the drivers have this little section in certain parts of the race track where they'll take a wider turn, and it activates. And while taking that wider turn, that's kind of their exit and entrance from and into attack mode. And essentially it gives them, I forget how much horsepower extra to the car, but it gives them more power to the car, and it gives them four-wheel drive instead of two-wheel drive, and so that allows them to have better grip and find easier routes around the race. And so they can split it up into different times. They can either do, I believe it's 2 and 6, 4 and 4, or 6 and 2 minutes. They have to use it twice, and they have to use up all their time before the end of the race. if not, they inflict a penalty. And so Mortara, he activated his attack mode post coming back off the restart for the full course yellow. And so he thinks if he had done it before the full course yellow, he could have won the race. And I think so. I think that could have been made that difference. But Ticktum is also a really good defender. So I think Mortara's just being an extra little hard on himself, hard on on his decisions. I think he should be really happy with his output this race, and I think that this puts him in a good position to maybe come back next race with that confidence and make more quality decisions, and maybe end up with a race win. So yeah. Now, look, Oliver Rowland finished P10. It's not a lot of points. However, he is, I believe, 69 points ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, which is the closest other person. And Pascal, while had a pretty phenomenal race in terms of starting at the bottom, ending almost top 10, he made a lot of mistakes during the race that kept him from ultimately making that top 10. But I don't know if Pascal is going to. Hello. Sorry. My mic died a moment ago. I don't know how much we were able to hear, Naib. Hilarious. Hilarious. I'm so sorry. We are back. And those are kind of my thoughts on Formula E and on pretty much all the races in general. There's a lot of kind of cross themes that I want to kind of go over and just some closing thoughts. Kind of a shorter episode this week because of the circumstances, and yeah, just appreciate y'all listening, staying with me. We'll be back to our kind of normal everyday process when we do this show next week. I'll upload or hit the Apex on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I'll upload our Into the Weekend on a Saturday before the race so we can kind of talk about all the things going in there. Some closing thoughts. Fuel strategy was king this weekend. Across, what's wrong with me? Across both IndyCar and NASCAR this weekend, fuel strategy certainly determined those winners, whether it was Palou saving fuel under cautions or Briscoe stretching those final 34 laps. The teams that managed energy and fuel best took home the trophies. And it's true. I think that I don't know what it was about this weekend, but most drivers just couldn't get their fuel economy kind of on track. So that ended up being the difference this weekend for sure. Aggression backfiring on across all races. You know, we saw examples of aggression costing drivers victories. Newgarden's mistake at Road America, Dennis DeVries contact in Jakarta. And sometimes the racer who keeps it clean and plays the long game wins. And certainly drivers like Palou, who didn't necessarily drive aggressively, that Power was the one who did, and he certainly paid for it. You know, we had Dennis and DeVries. Also, you know, I think that we had Palou who didn't who drove a very patient race. We had Briscoe as well who did, and obviously Ticktum as well, who made the most out of every opening scenario that he could. So sometimes aggression just ain't it, bud. Sometimes it ain't it. And Chan, what? I'm I'm so tired, guys. I'm so sorry. I really cannot talk today. Our championship implications. Looking at all three series again, everybody's kind of coasting. Palou and Roland are certainly coasting, and the NASCAR playoff bubble is looking really tight now. So we're gonna see who's gonna come out on top. That's everything, guys. That's everything. Thank you for again sticking it out with me. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, I'm excited to come back next week and talk about the races again and break it down for you. Uh, have a great week. Love y'all. See you next weekend. Bye bye.